Hello and welcome back to the Modern 80, a channel designed for modern American men to be encouraged to stay on their purpose and be the best citizens they can be, helping us build culture and community and society. Today is an exciting day. I've wanted to do this for a good 5 years, starting a series on religion, things that I have learned over the years and decades, really, in an effort to, again, build a better culture, better society. Now, everything that I wanted to say in the is I've already recorded it in narration for this intro video, so I'm not going to repeat it here. Instead, I will just use a couple minutes in the opening to encourage all the guys out there to stay on your purpose. Strive to be interdependent, all right, not dependent and not independent, okay? Independence is better than dependence, but as we learned from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People back in the 90s, extreme independence and dependence both bring down society because both types of person tend to take more than they give. So do something every day in discipline to move wherever you're at in your life, to move out of dependence into independence. But once you achieve that, get with other people who've also achieved it and create a pact or a human community of interdependence, because that builds culture, it builds society, it builds you. All right, so speaking of building and culture and independence and giving more than we take, we're going to talk about religion here, and here's the opening. Modern 80, I'm Odium, welcome back, strap in, this is gonna be something.
I was religious for a really long time, 25 years as a matter of fact. I was part of a fundamentalist American Christian group for, by the time I left, was half my life. Some people leveled the dreaded C word for this group, but to this day I hold that criticism is a little harsh. And maybe I'll do a video on them at some point, but I really don't think that'll be necessary. If people ask in the comments, maybe. Honestly, the only reason I bring them up is because there's one thing you have to understand about this group's influence over my journey. See, this group had a deep philosophy of taking the New Testament literally. They would mimic the actions of the characters therein. They tried to recreate the actions, attitudes, and philosophies of people described in the New Testament based on what they thought the first century church was like. And again, if you care about what that means and want me to describe it, let me know in the comments, and I'll actually have to make a different video about this group and my time in it. But for the purpose of this video, it's only necessary to understand that I was a part of a group that was really into the Bible as the literal Word of God, a belief that most American Christian denominations hold to varying degrees. And the charge to every individual was to know it like the back of their hand, because if we were going to do it, you had to know what was in it. And what that meant then was a daily study of it. This group actually had a social system where they held you accountable for how often you read the Bible to know it. And that standard was daily. Year after year, if you held to this, you could know the Bible pretty well. And as you might imagine, you start to look for more creative ways to inspire you to do it. One of the most common ways to seek this inspiration was to really study about first century Palestine with non biblical or extra biblical sources, archaeology, history. Now, don't get me wrong, it was always emphasized that you didn't want to base any convictions or life decisions of faith, dogma, on any source that was not the Bible. But if you were asked to say a word or two on Sunday, a nice anecdote about what it was like to live day to day in the first century, or even a hard nosed fact from a scholar that didn't come in conflict with the church's religious worldview, that would be met by delight with the audience. And that's where I got into trouble. Because even though I had the same conviction that the Bible was the inerrant, infallible, inspired Word of God from cover to cover, even that level of uninformed conviction could not prepare me for what I would find when I actually studied about the origins of this sect of Judaism that would end up being called Christianity. Now, it's important to note at this point in the video that anything that you hear in this series is not new. It is really old. I'm bringing nothing new to the table. I'm simply presenting information that we have had for some time, hopefully in a way that will make some people, religious or not, finally consider the true ins and outs of what we've been talking about all these years, centuries even. I was inspired to do this after reading some books years ago, the titles of which I'll ultimately share with you, but I was really inspired here within the last couple of days when I found a documentary style movie that serves as a series of broad stroke footnotes that can help someone travel the road I did just a little faster. There's also a secondary reason that I want to do this video, and that is to bolster the narrative that the need for values, morals, and ethics in human communities. See, atheists have always liked to say that they don't need God to have morals. Let me tell you something. Humans may not need to answer to a deity to have moral and ethical guideposts in our interactions with each other, but we do need something, and that something must be common between us. And it is my conviction that atheists have failed miserably in replacing religion, even the evil organized religion, as a common frame of reference for how we should treat each other. Because for all the flaws of theism, in this case within the framework of Judaism and Christianity, the positive influence that it has had over the world by worshiping a God that more or less judges people on the way they treated other people instead of how they treated God is missed in my observable world. Having said that, the only way to get humans to truly recognize the power that we have to be enlightened with the knowledge that we've gained as people is to sever the bonds to these religions that, in my opinion, have outlived their usefulness as a way of being cliff notes to morals. Because religious people, like myself just a few short years ago, refuse to accept that humans being moral out of the fear of having to give an account to an unseen deity only gets humanity halfway there. There was also an intellectual dishonesty behind giving credit for all the beneficial things that religion brought about, yet ignoring the unintended or even deliberate social consequences of religious thinking. So, to sum it up, this video series is here to challenge the American, religious or not, with this old information that they've either ignored or had been denied or dismissed as something that doesn't need to be understood, to move them towards a conviction where if we want to truly see the justice we all crave, we have to do it ourselves. No one is coming to save us. We have to care about how we treat people because no one is coming to balance the scales of justice for us. We have to care about how we treat the planet because the earth will not be burned in a cleansing fire to be rebuilt by a deity. That's not going to happen. People have been waiting around for 2,000 years, and many died thinking that they were going to see it in their lifetime. It's time for humanity to grow up. That's why I'm doing this video series.